And good evening, everyone. Compliments of the season. Welcome into your box seat preview special, of course, of the Trillion Trust Auckland Cup. Hope the festive season is treating you well, and we're about to treat you with some information to get involved. And the big day, it's an afternoon into the evening, of course, New Year's Eve at Alexandra Park. I've got a couple of learned gentlemen here. One who's here on a special day. Michael, fancy giving up your birthday to be on the box seat preview. Evening to you and happy birthday.
Evening, boys, and hi to everybody at home. I hope Christmas and New Year's going well for you. Boys, can't think of any other way I'd rather spend my birthday than hanging out with a couple of my mates, talking about something I pretend I know a bit about. The night before the Auckland Cup, fellas, I couldn't be happier to be here.
What about the Auckland Cup? Before we get into it, you believe there are only potentially 3 winning chances?
That's not being derogatory to the other 8 horses in the race, but 3 horses dominate the race so much. 2 of them have won New Zealand Cups, 1 hasn't, and for that reason I think Self Assured is too short. We're sort of ordaining him as a great horse before he's got a great horse's record. He's won 1 major race, he's contested 2 open class races, and been beaten in both of them, fellas. So I think it's a really strange Auckland Cup. There's a blueprint for that, for Turn It Up from last year, but I think Turn It Up had a better path toward an Auckland Cup than Self Assured has had. I am against the favourite in the Trillion Trust Auckland Cup.
And of course the previous year, while Vincent did something similar as a 4-year-old, as I say, evening to you.
Yeah, evening Greg, evening Michael. Happy birthday to you, mate. On a week that's been highlighted by a couple of big things. Zachary Butcher got engaged this week. Obviously Michael Guerin turned 50. There you go. The bookmakers would have taken large odds on them.
I think at the start of the week I was more chance of turning 50 than he was of getting engaged.
Well, getting to 50 would be a worry. But anyway, you've got married in the last couple of years as well, so good things do happen. On the Trillion Trust Auckland Cup, a really intriguing market, isn't it? We've had the favourite drift immensely in the last 24 hours. Big move on the fixer, obviously coming out of 2 mile form. Going to talk about a lot of moves in the next hour, Greg.
All right, looking forward to that, as we are to tomorrow night. So what's the weather going to do at Alexandra Park? And it is going to be like this: light winds, morning cloud, then a beautiful day, a few sea breezes and a high of 25. So absolutely perfect, and no excuse if you're in the greater Auckland area to head out for that array of great races. Group 1 level, we have 3 races: Trillion Trust Auckland Cup, Alabar Sire Stakes for the 3-year-old fillies, which has an intriguing draw, and of course the Sims Pacific Metals National Trot, where Oscar Bonavina is a very short price favourite. Let's get straight into the Trillion Trust Auckland Cup, the 131st running of this great race. And the fixer, as you can see there, boys, is the big mover, 380 into 290. That has allowed Self Assured's price to drift a wee bit to $1.80. But Michael, Cruise Bromac going out to $7 is the first thing there that interests me.
It does, and firstly the drift, $1.60 to $1.80, that's 33% profit margin. That's a significant drift this early in the Cup market. They wouldn't have copped a lot of money here, and that means all the money has gone on one horse, and that is the fixer. Okay, so driver changes. Blair Orange is back on Cruise Bromac, who he didn't drive during the Interdominions. The fixer, Natalie Rasmussen, who won the New Zealand Cup on him 13 months ago, back on him. Really big significant move, but I think it's for 2 reasons. I think Self Assured is one of those hyped Perd and Rasmussen horses, and by all means should be hyped. He's extremely good, and he might just come out and win. So the bookies, who get these bleeding noses from the Blue Army all the time, want to keep him tight. But I think they kept him too tight, because there's a very good case to make that, yes, 100% he can win, but you can see how he may have to chase down 2 former New Zealand Cup winners. And this is the New Zealand Cup going the other way round. So those horses, any day of the week, including tomorrow, Cruise Bromac and the fixer gentleman, I believe, can go 355. I don't know Self Assured can do that. I presume he can do it. But he's had 2 standing starts, and on both occasions, he hasn't galloped wildly, but he's missed away. So you're telling me that if the fixer and Cruise Bromac are on the marker pegs over 2 miles at the park, fellas, Self Assured just going to come round them and beat them? He might. I don't want, I'd take $1.85 or $1.80 or anything under $2.50 to find out.
Yeah,
Are you similar?
I agree with 90% of what you're saying. Probably what I would say him against a horse like Have No Faith was, I think if he's slow away and he bobbles, he'll come down into a pace. We've seen that. He did that in the Ashburton Flying Stakes. I think he could lose crucial advantage drawing it beside the 2 favourites here and be midfield in the pack, but I don't think he'll be out of the race. I'm not worried that he's going to gallop and he'll just stay in a gallop and he's got to do his chips at the start. But in saying that, if you're taking $1.60, you want him to step clearly and you want him to be there with the two other favourites in the race so he doesn't lose tactical advantage. I see him stepping slowly, I see him sitting in the first half of the field, but I do think there is value in the race, and especially Cruise Bromac. You can't tell me a horse like Cruise Bromac should be double the price of the fixer, not on their form. New Zealand Cup form, he beat him home. He beat him home once in the Inter-Dominion Series where he came off his back, went back round to the front. And again, I thought there was little between them in the grand final. He carted the fixer into the race and there was only a neck between them. So I think you can make a very good case that Cruise Bromac $7 is way overs.
And here is Cruise Bromac coming to the outside. The fixer gets off his wheel. Chase Auckland to their inside, and Ultimate Sniper goes on and wins. That's Mark Shard getting up on the inside. The fixer's last 100 metres was nothing short of outstanding though, Michael, and sectionally he was the best in the race from about the 400 metre mark. So it was a terrific performance from him. And from barrier one, he does have very good standing start ability. One of the reasons he has that is Natalie has said before, she can chase him early. Not a lot of horses you can chase a little bit with the stick and the reins for that matter in the early part of a race, but he's one horse you can do that with.
Yeah, and a couple of factors here. Obviously the winner's not starting, so take him out of play. So then you've got one horse up against the marker pegs who had the trail, who beats them home, but more than likely Mark Shard's going to be behind. We think at least Cruise Bromac and the fixer. So you put them up against the marker pegs and say, again, 355 might be standard almost these days for those horses. Coming around them to beat them is going to be awfully difficult. I agree with Craig. I don't think Self Assured's going to be out the back door. But what you're saying is when you map this in your mind, if the fixer and Cruise Bromac are lead trail or classy brigades around them, because I think he's the other horse who can
He's
get
a
involved.
very good standing start.
He is. And we've seen that New Zealand Cup and Kaikoura Cup. And he's back to something he likes doing. But you put them in the first three of some order. As we saw in the New Zealand Cup, John Dunn will be reluctant to park them out. It's a lot of money, and if you're parking them out, they'll keep coming and attacking. So that's how you get beat. There's a really realistic scenario here, the fixer or Cruise Bromac are 1-2. Now, if they're in that situation, there's no pressure in the race. There's not a horse in this race who's good enough to attack them. So if that happens, Self Assured sitting back on the outside. Now, he may be a very, very good horse, and I don't think the other two are great open class older horses, but they've proven they can do that. Whereas this horse here is extremely talented, but here he is beating Henry Hugh. Now, that's no disrespect to Henry, but this is a totally different kettle of fish, and if the fixer, or more particularly Cruise Bromac, had sat parked in this race, they would have done the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is he didn't beat much in that day, but he did run home in a 54 half. Also his Ashburton Flying Stakes run. I mean, only the fixer and Spankham beat him home, and that's after he missed away and to sit outside them to run into a placing. He was outstanding there. He got beaten by Ultimate Sniper, who sniped him at Addington in October. Those are his only two losses. So you can't knock the horse, and we're all worried about the standing start, but he looks to be a very clean-gaited horse, Greg. I think he's a horse that, sure, he's been slow on his two starts today, but it wouldn't surprise me if he caught it on the right leg and ended up leading this race. Yeah. If he did that, the $1.85, and I believe it'll get out longer than that, closer to time, the $2 could be very good.
Yep. Yeah, the question with him is price. Nobody watching this show doubts he can win. He's flip of the coin to be top pick alongside the fixer. I don't really have a strong opinion on who should be top pick in the race. But one was $3.80 and one was $1.60. Well, that just doesn't make any sense. So I agree with you. What we saw in both those open class starts was good enough to say, hey, he can turn up and win. But again, there's enough doubt there and there's enough percentage in the other two. If you're backing $7 Cruise Bromac and say it's going to be $3.20 the fixer, if you want to spend your 10 units, no issues having 6 units on one of them, 3 units on the other, and you're going to double your money if one of those two wins and Self Assured doesn't. Because I genuinely believe, as much as Classy Brigade's a good horse, and Mark Shard's a good horse, and there's other good horses in there like Chase Auckland, if those other two are on the marker pegs up the front, it's going to need to be an exceptional horse to beat both of them.
Hug the Wind place in this race a couple of years ago. Now, I mention that because the man directing the show for the final time tonight, Glenn Bourne, I tried to get him on the show as well, but he wasn't overly fussed on doing that. He backed him for a place, so that's why Hug the Winds appeared in the last 2 shows of these. And in fact, he's up to about show 105, so he's done a pretty good job dealing with, particularly you, over that period, Michael.
I tell you what, it's not an easy show to put together because we've had to find so many different storylines when one stable wins so many big races. But it's been a pleasure to work with Glenn. It's a shame to see him go, but we'll find someone better to replace him.
No doubt. He's even given us a bottle of this to celebrate.
What is it?
That's for your birthday, apparently. And we can't crack it while we're on the show, but anyway, we might have a crack at it
That's
afterwards.
all I get.
Yeah, that's it. For 3 years of joy. I'm
going to give it back to him and say goodbye after the show.
All
Okay,
right.
so what do we do with the
How do
punt?
we spend 100?
Mondays.
What are you doing?
I'm split betting.
You are?
Go. It's easy. It's the easiest bet of the year. I've got the whole family here. They're going to the races tomorrow. God, that's going to be fun. And I'm just going to say, look, take your $20 and have 10 on both, or take your 100 if you're that way inclined. Don't gamble more money than you can afford to lose. Just split bet, boys.
Yep.
How hard's it? And if Self Assured comes and beat you, you shrug your shoulders and you say, hey, we're beaten by a good horse.
I think Cruise Broback's overs. I think if I was selecting in the race and I had to tip them 1, 2, 3, I'd be definitely tipping Self Assured to win, but I couldn't take the $1.80. So I think the Quinella 3 and 5 is a nice way to play here with Cruise Bromack. I think the fix is a big player, but I think he's getting too short now. $2.90 for a horse that I think can win the race, but is getting to the right price. I think Cruise Bromack $7 is certainly overs anyway if you want to back something outside the square.
All right, I was probably thinking a Quinella as well, based on the fact that, look, if Self Assured does the right thing, it's a nice bottle, isn't it? I'm happy to be on the Quinella, him and the fixer.
I think he stole it from a minibar.
But I could just as easily have Cruise Bromack and just box the 3 of them.
I need to ask you
watch
boys
the
about
race.
one horse, Classy Brigade. Excellent Kaikoura Cup. Last time he tried to do this type of thing, excellent New Zealand Cup. If he can get across them early, and I know we're talking about standing start speed, but if he whizzes them early, he's on the marker pegs, paying first 4.
Yeah.
I really like him for the same reasons I said exactly the same thing to you boys 8 weeks ago at Addington.
The first 4 thing is the big key with him. And I spoke to John Dunn today, and he said he's right in the zone. I'm really happy with where he's at.
Well, obviously not doing a speed map for a standing start race, but how I map it and how I see it working from the standing start is very similar to what the New Zealand Cup did. The fixer drew relatively inside, Cruise Bromack drew outside it, and then Classy Brigade was right there as well. I could see these three being the first 3 away in the Auckland Cup, so that gives Classy Brigade a great first 4 chance. If he got to the marker pegs first, handed to the right one, he's at a nice place price.
2 more horses, Chase Auckland.
It's unruly, having to get round them, I think probably no. Could I add one in for very big money? That would be 888. I know you're going to say, listen, he was just okay in the Dominion final, but his sectionals were unbelievable. He actually ran his last mile in 1:53 and he only ran back in the field. He's going to need luck, but he doesn't deserve to be $151. And I think he was something like $14 a place. If he lobbed 4th, it wouldn't surprise me.
What about Mark Shard?
Well, he's a good horse, and he follows out the fixer, and he went great in the Inter-Dominion final, and he had an abscess down in Christchurch, which blew out the day after the Cup. So I'm prepared to forgive him that. If he's in on the markers, and you keep saying it, we all keep saying it, markers, particularly at Alexandra Park, and even more so in Group 1 races. So yes, he's got a place chance. Chase Auckland, I was concerned going into the Trotting Cup. He got the 2 miles clearly. He went an outstanding race. If he can bounce off that disappointing run in the Inter-Dominion where he had to come 3 wide on his own, then he's a top 4 player.
We're not talking about another masterpiece. Is there a reason that we think maybe the 2 miles is a query for him?
Definite query there, and I still query whether he's up to the absolute Group 1
If you went to
level.
Alexandra Park,
And
you'd
saw
never
him
been to the
go,
races
yes.
last week, or a fortnight ago, say, well,
You
where
would
did
say
that
that.
come from? But he's just one of those horses that...
He's got that bloke Hurley driving him.
I think he's driven 8 New Zealand Trotting Cups. He's won 8.
Yep. He has. Yep. Incredible. Hey, one horse that won't be there, Michael, we have to acknowledge is the retirement of Tiger Tara, the outstanding pacer, of course, who won nearly $2.5 million. I wanted to show this to remind us how good he could be, and at Alexandra Park, beating Lochaburn in the Northern Derby. This was off the back of winning the Sire Stakes final.
And when he won this, he only won by a nose, and you sort of thought, oh, you know, is he going to be fast enough to be an open class horse? And he was a great open class horse in the end. And he was a true warrior. It's an overused term, but warrior of harness racing.
Do you know it took him 10 starts to win his first race?
Funny enough, I did know that.
Yep.
And he won 2 Group 1s, going each way, right and left-handed as a 3-year-old, obviously the Sire Stakes. Did an amazing job. When they sold him, I thought, Not so sure about buying a horse like him. Well, as it turns out, he did this during the Inter-Dominion. Of course, he did the same thing in the Hunter Cup and something similar in the Victoria Cup. And you look at this and think, oh yeah, but he's only beating our Uncle Sam. He's also beating Spankham and Cruz Bromack. So the Miracle Mile winner and the New Zealand Cup winner of the next 12 months are in that race.
Quite amazing too. He won 9 races last season. I mean, he actually had one of his best seasons ever was last. I think it's 37 wins total, 9 of them last year, and he bankrolled $2.3 million. So he was a real war horse, and he probably made races like the New Zealand Cup very interesting because he made moves in a race where there may not have been moves because he was so tough.
Well, here's the crucial thing about him. If he wasn't born in the same era as Lazarus, he would have won an extra $1.5 million.
Yeah, true.
He ran a New Zealand Cup where he ran second to Lazarus,
Yep.
albeit 10 lengths, but he wins that if Lazarus isn't in there.
Yep.
He's in
Ran third the next year.
He's in Inter Dominion final, which he probably wins if Lazarus isn't in it sitting parked outside him.
Yep.
He could have been a joint Dominion champion, New Zealand Cup winner, and to be honest, the All Stars beat him in another cup with the Fixer.
Well, the Fixer beat him the day. Now, tell me, has there ever been a horse more unlucky not to win a New Zealand Cup with the performance that he put up? Probably final decision
Final
back
decision.
in the 70s, but
Yeah, final.
outside of that,
Yep, it was a remarkable
And
performance.
his free-for-all win was fantastic too. So he got something over here, but we really never saw the best of him when he was Aussie trained.
and Jeff Dunn, of course, did a marvellous job when he was here, as did Gerard O'Reilly driving him, and that's really, that was his first Group 1 winner for Gerard as well, and that's what got his name to prominence, if you like, as well.
And we need 2 or 3 more of them because we need a horse to get in there and muddy the waters. At the moment, are open class racing, and this is by no means an insult to Mark and Natalie, who are doing an amazing job. But we don't have enough horses who can beat up on them and get involved.
There's only one John Dunn out there.
Exactly,
at the
and
moment.
the Dunns are fighting really hard. And the funny thing about it is, I can't quite work out how it works because it's not like they've got a stable with 100 horses in it, and they're only buying 16 yearlings. Now, I know somebody has to be the best, but at the moment, because we're selling horses and horses, either they're buying the right horses, I'm not sure why, but you know, there was a Lockerburn at one stage, and obviously Terror to Love was there. So it's not like they're unbeatable. But at the moment, we seem to be going through a phase where we're just not finding any other horses to be competitive. The smoking ups and those type of horses. As I said, that's absolutely no pot on the All Stars. It's almost like the Canterbury Crusaders or the All Blacks in the old days, or the Australian cricket team, whatever you want to name. Someone's got to be the best. But I do think it's not bad for harness racing, but it would be better for harness racing to have more storylines, and Tiger Tara was an exceptionally fun storyline.
He certainly was. Kevin Pizzuto added to that as well. He's a bit different, but tell you what, he did a great job with him. Let's move on to the next of our Group 1s. It is the Sims Pacific Metals National Trot. And we have the favourite being Oscar Bonavina, $1.45, not surprisingly. Winterfell, Majestic Man, the Quinella from the Inter-Dominion final. And Enhance Your Calm, who I thought was very good against Oscar Bonavina on that final night. And of course, we've got the defending champion, Massive Metro, and the previous year was won by Temporale.
Grego, this
Yes.
is the best trotting race in Australasia for the last 2 years. I've been to every single big one there's been. This is the best field we have produced in the last 2 years. It's the Inter-Dominion final field, plus we've just chucked in Enhance Your Calm, and then we've just chucked in Oscar Bonavina, who might be the best of the lot of them. So, big El Fisho individual. How do you see it looking at the start?
Well, this is how we got lined up over the 2,700 metres. When we come off the gate, as they did in the Inter-Dominion final, Majestic Man got across Winterfell. Not easily, but it'll be more difficult because they've drawn beside each other this week. And I think they'll roll the dice with the Majestic Man and go again because it is probably his last run this campaign. Out wide, you've got Enhance Your Calm, who showed really good gate speed in the Cambridge Flying Mile on Christmas Eve. Oscar, I think he'll just come out and he'll let them settle into some sort of order, and then he'll work his way forward. Mark Hall is outside him, and in between them is Valoria. Showed a bit of gate speed in the Inter-Dominion series, but I do think probably inside 2 here early with Winterfell and also Majestic Man off the gate.
Craig, 2 really crucial factors to that point, and I agree with you on the gate speed. I think that's how they'll land early. Had a really long talk to Phil Williamson, and he said, look, we're going to roll the dice here. We're going to go forward, and I'm happy for Brad to get to the front and roll quarters and 30 and stay there. So that's their intention. They've made that public. It was on all the websites and the Herald this morning. Had another talk to Mark Purdon yesterday about the whole team. And Oscar Bonavina, he's driving very happy. He said, what do you make of Winterfell? He said, yeah, he worked good today, but he said, I haven't been as happy with his manners since the Inter-Dominion final. Now, I don't like hearing that if I'm going to be taking $5 for him. When we watched him work before the Inter-Dominion final and we saw how faultless he was, and even then he still needed to be very brave to win this race, as we see it here. There's Massive Metro outside him, Valoria coming wide, Majestic Man to the inside. If there's even a slight hitch in the gate, mental or physical, then I start to feel no for him again. That's not slagging the Inter-Dominion champion, but Mark wasn't as bouncy about him, Gregory, as he was 17 nights ago.
And that is a concern, particularly with early pressure. He's a horse that has tried to get out of it a few times before, Craig, and Majestic Man, well, he should just get straight past him anyway, I think.
I actually don't like hearing what I'm hearing from Phil, that this horse is going to stay in front. Now, I'm a huge Majestic Man fan.
Yep.
I tipped him every race through the Inter-Dominion Carnival, including the final. I have a theory on him. I think he's a better horse over a short journey in front. I think over 2,700 metres, he's a better horse when he's chasing them down, because I think his speed is his biggest asset. If he rolls to the front here and tries to lead, there is pressure coming from everywhere. Enhance Your Calm will come at some stage. There'll be multiple moves this race. I think the best chance of Majestic Man, this is my own opinion, because I've got to analyse the race of how I think it'll unfold. Best chance of Majestic Man in this race would be to gun a horse down. Now that will be to find the front and hand to the right one. Oscar seems the right one. If they're going to roll the dice and lead up here, I think there's a lot of pressure. Now, I tipped them to win the Inter-Dominion final over 2,700 metres. You'll say, well, why did you do that? Because I thought he'd be in the trail. I was always confident he'd get across Winterfell and he'll trail the right one. And probably if he took in the passing lane, he would have won that race. I think Majestic Man, the reason they're doing this is completely obvious. It's his last run for the campaign, so they are going to roll the dice. But I think the best version of Majestic Man...
I think there's another reason. They can only handle one horse.
Yeah.
It's Oscar Bonavina.
And if he gets in front of him, bye-bye.
Yeah, but isn't second money with an awful lot of money? It's not much difference in the Inter-Dominion final. I mean, it's 150 for a final of the Inter-Dominions and 100 for this one.
You make an interesting point. I agree with everything you say. I think the best version of him sitting in the trail. By the way, the pole goes on the outside to try and get him down to the passing lane if he needs to go down there. But you're right on what you say. But if that pressure does come, it raises another interesting point. Oscar Bonavina is the best horse in this race, but okay, he's sitting 1-1. Say he's sitting there. We'll start with that for a minute. Massive Metro comes, Temporale comes, whoever else comes, whatever. Marcoola has a new driver, Scott Phelan. Then Oscar's getting pushed back. Now, if you're in front, you can't be unlucky. If Oscar's in the mix, he has the potential to be unlucky. I like it from Phil. I think that if he's in front, I don't like Winterfell this week. I tipped him on top in the Inter-Dominion final. I don't like it. I think there's one horse to beat, and I think if you stay in front of it, you can beat it. If he trails Oscar Bonavina, it doesn't matter what happens in this race, he will disappear into the crusher dust.
Well, here was Oscar Bonavina sitting in the trail in the Cambridge Mile, and Majestic Man comes wide. Anna has got a full head of steam up here. This guy goes up the lane and just goes whoosh.
I tell you what, I haven't seen anything like this, because they went past me. Now, at that point, that is where I present from, at the 150 metre mark at Cambridge Raceway. Majestic Man had put a full length on Oscar Bonavina at that point and had a steam up. And Hansha Khan wasn't doing his stablemate any favours. He got out of the road, but just held him up. It took probably Marker 50 metres longer to get into the passing. I tell you what, he went past Majestic Man with his ears pricked, with 2 gears under the bonnet. That was one of the most scary ones I've seen in an awful long time. It suggested to me this horse I knew was very, very good, but he's got depths that I haven't seen before. And I just thought... whatever the race was run this week, if he had to sit 1-1 or he led or he sat back in the field, speed will get him home. For me, I'd be quite happy with $1.50. I think he'll win.
He sustains his speed for a very long time. I wouldn't actually be too concerned if he was sitting parked myself.
Well, I think he settles so well.
That's what I like about him.
What I also found is he's not an overly big horse. He's a very, very well put together horse. But like the Majestic Sons, he's not overly big, but he's very nuggety and he's very quick. So I think he can win multiple ways. With Majestic Man, I think he can probably win one of only 2 ways.
What about Massive Metro? Questions for you. Where's he at? Because he was fantastic during the Inter-Dominion, and Temporale didn't have any luck in that Inter-Dominion final, went to Cambridge and, yeah, it was okay.
Temporale's in a situation where the horses around him are going to dictate where he's able to get to. Massive Metro was excellent. He could win if they burn up really hard, but you're still talking similar situation to the Inter-Dominion final, plus we're adding 1, if not 2, very good 4-year-olds. And it's the same thing for Paramount King. We know they're good enough to be there, but how are they going to get past probably Majestic Man, and almost certainly Oscar Bonavina at the head of the field. So, and that's not being totally discountful of Winterfell. I just think he'll get crossed, and I'm not sure where he gets to there.
Okay, you've got $100. How do you spend it?
I don't actually bet Quinellas. It's not my modus operandi of betting, but I think it's a standout Quinella because if Oscar Bonavina happened to mosey to the front over Majestic Man, it's a done deal with Quinella. Yep. If he doesn't, Majestic Man's still in front, and I think Oscar Bonavina is the best chance of running past him. I do think Mark Cool is interesting. At some stage, they're going to have to launch him. He's had a very relaxing,
Mixed.
Negative, poor, whatever word you want to use, last month. I just think it could... I think this is a strange race. I think this is a race where Oscar Bonavina should 100% win. But I think there's the potential for something strange to happen.
And that happened last year. Mark Hall, we all thought would win. Massive Metro got a beautiful run on the inside and was too good.
Absolutely. I played this race a little bit different because I'm not convinced if this is going to unfold that Majestic Man's going to lead this race. I do think there's a chance for something to get into the money at good money, and it may be temporarily trailing through the fence if Winterfell held up or trailed. So for me, I end up a $5 trifecta, and I put Oscar on top, clearly on top. Winterfell, Majestic Man, enhance your calm because I'm willing to drop that run at Cambridge. If you go on the run the week before, fantastic behind Oscar Bonavina, beat home Tickle Me Pink. Included Mark Cooler because what I saw at Cambridge, although he galloped, I thought he looked magnificent. I actually thought he stripped really well at Cambridge, and he's going to be at 20 to 1. It adds some value temporarily because he'll sit on the marker pegs. I thought that's not the worst way trifecta for $100.
Yeah, well, it's not because it's your birthday, but I'm happy to go the same Quinella as you. Yeah.
That's not a bonus for me.
Is that not?
That's bad.
Is that not? Is that really bad? Okay.
Here's a question for you.
It's not really interested in
Here's
my
a question
bet,
we don't ask very often. What do you want to happen? Not the punt. What do you want? Who do you want to win this race?
I want to see
Oscar.
something special.
I think the best horse of the race. You always want to see the best horse win the race, whether you backed it or not. It's always you want to see the best horse.
Sometimes
win.
I don't. Sometimes I don't like the person who owns it. I don't want to see them win.
Well, okay, but I think
Not sometimes. It's happened quite a few times.
You like Roy Purdon, don't you, Michael?
Well, that's the thing. I'm torn. I want Majestic Man to win because I think he deserves a win. Yep. But everybody loves Roy. He's one of my favourite people in New Zealand racing, and I would love to see him get a Group 1 on his home track. Either of those situations, there's plenty of other people.
Well, they
in the
dodged
race
into the minions.
They've
set it for this race, and I'd love to see Roy win this race.
But you know, Majestic Man deserves a good race. Gee, he deserves.
Well, I think I know that.
When he came stomping around there at Cambridge, I thought he's going to beat this horse. And again, just like he must be that sick of All Stars horses now. He must have nightmares about them. Hopefully, this time tomorrow night he's not having a nightmare.
All right, short break for us. When we come back, we've still got plenty of very good racing from the park tomorrow night to preview.
I love the music.
All you need is Faith Jack's Legend up the inside, 100 to go, turn it up from Star Galleria, Ashley Lopez, turn it up, the remarkable rise of this Courage Under Fire 4-year-old continues with the Auckland Cup win.
And of course, Star Galleria running second there gets another opportunity in an Auckland Cup. Todd Mitchell drives for Stephen Reid, and Turn It Up's back in work, which is pretty positive too. Nice to hear that news coming out in the last week or so. Of course, you're on your box seat with Woodland Stud and their son, their horse, of course. Bettor's Delight continues to have multiple winners. Let's move on to our next feature, and it is for $200,000, the 28th running of the PGG Rights in New Zealand Yearling Sales Series Final. One change, the Sire Stakes winner, $1.50, last season's 2-year-old of the year. Hampton Banners at 81s, $8.50 for Lineup. Those two both out of the Ray Green barn. Further down, we have Flying Even Better's got another bad draw, $23. Smooth Deal, $2.90 into $2.80, and Bad to the Bone for Barry Purdon, $18. Big Fish, how do they line up in this year's Sales Series Final?
Yeah, gate speed likely to come from one change. And saying that, it hasn't got brilliant gate speed, but it's not a relatively quick front row. Out wide Lineup They haven't used its gate speed so far. We saw it at Addington. I think they'll roll the dice and go forward from out wide. Splitting between them is down to the bone. Hampton Banner won't get involved. Out wider, Mighty Louis can get out, but I think it's drawn out wide enough that he probably won't. Flying Even Better is the interesting one because I think the best version of him is when he goes forward, but I'm more thinking he'll go back with the stablemates drawn inside him here. So that's how we see them coming off the gate. Just that speed map's a little bit wonky because it's 2,200 metres and we are going right-handed, not left-handed.
Yeah, the indications are from the barn they're going to go forward and Flying Even Better. So.
Right.
And lineups has to go forward.
Lineup
Anthony
has to go
Butt's
forward.
modus is to definitely go forward with him.
Well, if they all go back, then one change will stroll to the front with a $100 chance on its back and it'll win. So that's not much fun for anybody. Here's the most natural lead-up race. Now, the horse in front is not in the race, so he's out of play. Smooth Deal outside the leader and One Change, Beautiful Drive, storming home late. So ignore the winner pretty much, copy that. Second and third, the key runners there with Line-Up back in behind them. I thought Line-Up had his chance there, to be honest.
Yeah, he was just okay, I thought. Just okay, but he was very good in the sire stakes, although, copy that, and obviously One Change beat him home relatively easily, but he did burn up nice and early in that race.
He's the key to the race.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because if he goes forward, I think One Change gets out of his way. I think if they go forward, they've got to go forward with intent. There's no point going forward and having a look. I think One Change is an interesting horse. He's got a great horse's record. For a 3-year-old, outstanding 2-year-old. And you want to like the horse, and why wouldn't you? He's done nothing wrong. But he's also a horse, when you see $1.50, you're happy to bet against him because he has been beaten or has won by very short margins. The problem is, if you are betting against him here, copy that showing he's as good as him, but have the others. And Smooth Deal is the clear second favourite. And you're thinking, well, how's Smooth Deal going to beat him? If he crosses the one, which I think he will, so he's on the market pegs and he might be behind a lineup, then what's Smooth Deal doing? Is he attacking the leader? If One Changes in front, is Smooth Deal getting the lead off him? How do we find Smooth Deal, who I don't see as a change-up bang type horse, getting around to win? Because they're the two favourites and it's an enormous way back to the next favourite in that pack. So if you're trying to get One Change beaten at $1.50, I'm struggling to find the horse to do it.
I think Smooth Deal is the only horse that can do it, but it is very much going to be race pattern orientated in terms of his winning chances. Do you believe he can beat him?
I actually put him on top. I do think he
Smooth
can
Deal?
win. Absolutely, I do. I think he's a very, very good horse who is still on the up because he's only had 2 runs back this time up. I actually tipped him in that race to run in the money.
You did?
And he went a cracking race. He was parked for the first 1,600 metres of that race. He got covered down the back when One Change came, and then he actually kicked on again in the lane. Now, if you look at him, One Change sure beat him home, but he's had a lot of racing. This bloke's only had 2 runs. Now he's had 2 weeks between that Inter-Dominion night and the race tomorrow afternoon. I think you strip a fitter horse. I'm also not worried where he's drawn. I'm actually happy where he's drawn. To the second row, he follows out One Change. Sure, he's not going to go forward and try and out-muscle a stablemate, but he doesn't have to. He just follows him through. He gets into the running line. I see him posing up 1 out, 1 back, 3 back on the outside, and I can see Mark Purd moving at any stage, whether he wants to get outside the favourite at the Bell or he wants to get outside him at the 400 metre mark. I think he's in the right spot to win the race. He's probably going to get out in the odds. One changes at $1.50. He'll probably stay at that quote.
There, yep.
I think Smooth Deal will probably get out to $3, and I'd be quite prepared to take the $3.
How do you play your $100?
Straight on him to win.
Bang.
I think there's a chance, the other scenario we haven't discussed, is if One Change is punching through and holding Line-Up at the start or trying to hold him, that Smooth Deal follows him through and potentially does get the lead. There is a chance that can
There is
happen.
a chance of doing that, but I don't think he's one of those horses just
You
in his
can't
old...
bustle him early.
You can't, because you go back to his 2-year-old form when they did that, and I think he's learnt a lot since then. He's a more tractable horse now.
Yep.
But in his early stages of career, I thought he was very vulnerable.
But they may not have to. Like if
the
we're
favourite
thinking
gets
it's a
there.
negative front line, a lot of horses going back, he might just end up 3 back on the outside.
Correct.
And if that happens, on a big, strong, rolling horse like him who's heading to the Victoria Derby, it's not outside the realms of possibility.
That he could go
He
forward.
runs to the front in the middle stages and you can't get enough on, and also it gives One Change a chance of coming off his back. So that's where line-up's so crucial. If line-up doesn't get involved here early, or if you're thinking Flying Ever Better goes forward at the start, again, there's a chance Smooth Deal can get the lead. So it's not without a chance, and that would make your potential $3 really juicy.
Yeah, well, I'm with One Change as well, but I'm almost tempted to split again, but you're not going to make enough, obviously, if one change wins. But certainly, if you get to that $3, even $3.20,
I just think there's the market there with one change taking so much money. That Smooth Deal, that they held him pretty short at 280. He's drifted to 290, and I just think in the next 24 hours he'll get over $3.
I did ask Natalie, is he the biggest threat? She said, without doubt. She's really noticed. They went home for about 3 days after the Inter-Dominion final, have come back. She's really noticed Smooth Deal's improvement in the last
He's a
4 or
bigger,
5
thicker
days.
horse. One Change is a little nippy horse, and he's a big, thick horse, Smooth Deal, and it's taken them time to get to the bottom of him. I think we'll see the best of them in the Victoria Derby, and I've backed him to win the Victoria Derby, and I think he will win the Victoria Derby.
30th running of the Alabar Sire Stakes for the 3-year-old fillies, and you said to me on Inter-Dominion final night, without being derogatory, gee, I hope the Dun pair draw inside Amazing Dream because then we'll have a race. Well, that's exactly what's happened.
This has turned into a beauty. There was a race on December the 6th which looked exactly like this. And you're looking at this now and you're thinking, Amazing Dream, the All-Stars, it'll be winning, rah, rah, rah. But the last time she tried to do this, and I don't think she was at her peak on December the 6th when she did get beaten by these horses, Craig, she couldn't get around both Spellbound and Need You Now. So do you see the R and J Dun pair leading and trailing? Because if they do, it's going to be a tricky race for Amazing Dream.
I do see them leading and trailing, and this is how we got them coming off early on at the 2200 metre starting point. Need You Now's drawn nicely at 2. Now, Ember has just got out of Maiden's, drawn the inside. He gets out okay, but not as quick as the 2 outside it. Need You Now firstly, then Spellbound. In saying that, I think Spellbound will end up in front of the stablemate. Dr. Susan midfield probably has to go forward from his draw. Then you're getting out to Little Miss Perfect. And out wide, Gemma Mack at Barra 8 probably won't go forward because it's out too far. What is happening in behind is very interesting because Stylish Memphis follows out one of the Dun runners and should punch Shrew. Now, I've got a theory on what will happen after that. I don't think Natalie will follow out Ember. I think she'll let Ricky go through and then get straight off and follow out Stylish Memphis. I could see Amazing Dream sitting 3 back, 1 off very early on in this race. So I'm not too worried about where she's going to posse up. Sure, you're going to have the Dun pair up front, probably lead trail off the map, but she's not in a hopeless position here. What's really helped her chances, even though she's won the second row, is there's only a very small second row. 2 runners, Greg, Stylish Memphis is the other.
Here's the Caduceus Club Peter Brecken Memorial Group 1 it was. She dashed away here. Gee, this was a run from Stylish Memphis. I know she was out of the early burn. Need You Now had a pretty tough time of it, as did Spellbound, both of them from awkward draws. But Stylish Memphis really charged home.
She went super against the pattern of the day too. Not many horses were coming stomping down the outside on Inter-Dominion Grand Final night. So look, let's not, be derogatory towards Amazing Dream. She's been nothing but amazing for most of this campaign.
Well, her performance on Cup Day.
Fantastic, and the performance there was fantastic. But there's enough there from Stylish Memphis. You go, okay, she's possible. And more importantly, that was the December 14 race. The December 6 race, totally different map. Need You Now, trails, Spellbound. That's what we think's going to happen. Can be wrong, but it could happen. Said to Robert Dunn today, what happens there? Well, that's what we want to do. We want to lead trail with those horses. Now, if they do that, and you have exactly the same scenario here, we have proof. This is proof. It's actually happened that Need You Now can beat Amazing Dream. And that's half the thing with the All-Stars horses. Half the time you're going, well, I haven't seen proof they can beat them.
Here it is.
And we still haven't seen proof that Stylish Memphis can beat them, but she's gone good enough to suggest it's possible. But right there was proof in 2:37 that Need You Now can beat her. Now you look at the 6 and you go, well, then why did it run 6 last time, smartass? But last time she had to burn really hard for the first 600 in sub 41 seconds. So if they lead trail, Amazing Dream might just come and out tough them. But if she does that, I think to beat both of them, she'll need to pour the pressure on from the 800. She'll need to untangle them. Now, you untangle them, that leaves you potentially vulnerable to Stylish Memphis. So I think as much as she's the best horse in the race, I don't want to take $1.75 for that Amazing Dream. I'm not saying you should back something else. I'm happy to split bet the Dun pair. But I'm happy to sit out of it too, because if she's going to win this, she may well have to win this close to national record time. It's awfully hot in Auckland. The times will be rapidly fast tomorrow night, and she might need to do it sitting parked.
Yeah, 236.9 Golden Goddess about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm probably the other way. I'm a massive fan of Spellbound, and I do think she's a very speedy filly, but I think we're going to see something very special tomorrow night. I think Amazing Dream, they've added the blinds on her tomorrow night, sharpen her up. I don't think she'll have to sharpen up too much from what I saw when she was far too good for them last time. I think she'll probably have to sit park for the last 800 metres of the race, but I think she's actually going to be better. I think she went into that first run at the park well underdone, and the 2 done runners got her that night, but they didn't get it by an awful lot. A week later, she turned that form around. I'm quite happy to play the Quinella. I think the main danger is definitely Spellbound, but I have a lot of respect for Stylish Memphis. So my bet, $50 Quinella, would be Anchoring Amazing Dream, Spellbound, Stylish Memphis, the only 2 to beat at home.
I'm going to split the dun pair just because I love leaders and trailers at Alexandra Park. I think Amazing Dream's the best horse in the race. I think she'll probably win, but I don't want to be backing her at $1.75 to find out. I can back one horse for $100 and get $170 back, or I can back 2 horses to get a chance to get $170 back. So I'm doing the second thing.
All right, and I'm going to take the Quinella. I think Spellbound is the better of the 2 done fillies. I know Need You Now may well be in the right spot, but I'm happy to have the Quinella with her and Amazing Dream. So
what has to happen for Stylish Memphis to win? I've got a theory. What's yours?
I think she'll sit in probably 1 out, 1 back. I think she's a very, very quick mare, filly. I think she's best saved for 1 run. I don't think she's a leader, so I think she's in the right spot. I thought if you look at that run a fortnight ago, her run was equally as good as Amazing Dream. I think so she's going forward. She's going to be in the right spot.
I think there's one place where she can win from. She's sitting parked when Amazing Dream comes, then she's sitting on the back of Amazing Dream. Amazing Dream sledgehammers the other 2, she slingshots her. That's the absolute sweet spot
scenario. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank goodness this man's not driving race day anymore. He has become an outstanding commentator, as we know. Here's Matthew Cross saluting. He's all over, winning the kids' karts event. Let's leave it with the commentary team, which was Harrison Orange and Jacob Dunn, and they'll tell you what happens.
Boost, who's coming up the inside? Booster's coming, who's gonna get it?
He's cutting them off.
Booster's gone wide, and Booster's gonna get up in front of. She gives it the salute. Cherie's really happy, and Cherie wins, followed by Rocky. Then we've got Frisbee, always just had a wee gallop. Barney up the middle, running on.
Welcome back into your box seat. We're getting close to getting into the home straight, but you probably haven't noticed I've been away for a couple of days, bit of holidaying, and it was good to know that you hadn't missed me, Michael. A couple of mentions on the television, including this.
Yeah, Cookie, some big political news there. If you and Matt Cross are going to the races together, Greg O'Connor's going to be really jealous. Like, I think he thought Matt Cross was his man. But Cookie, you're a lot closer in age to Matt than Greg is, so I can see how that's happened. And yeah, it's going to be pretty nasty in the Canterbury studios, I think, after that, Cookie. No comment, Cookie?
I think so, yep. He's back tomorrow. He's back tomorrow for the harness. He's back for the Mochikarara harness, so he'll have a bit to say, I'm sure, Michael. But yeah, we've got the ride back as well, so there'll be plenty to talk about after today too, with the couple of hours drive. You've
stolen his little mate. Mark McNamara left him, now you've stolen Matt Cross. It's going to be a sad, sad time for Gregory. Really disturbing stuff coming out here. I'm sorry the trackside viewers had to hear about that.
Yeah, a big thank you to Glenn Bourne for showing me that scene. I couldn't see it while I was away, Michael. Yeah.
Is it tough that all your mates keep leaving? Glenn Bourne's leaving today. Mark McNamara's left.
Plenty of people at home wishing you might leave one day too, but Matt Cross, it just hasn't quite happened yet. Yeah. Even on your birthday,
I think people just gravitate towards people they like more than you, Greg.
Let's move on to race number 1. This is tomorrow, of course, Alexandra Park, and the favourite here is Bolt for Brilliance Whale, and well, we know what he did at his last start. He won a harness duel, and of course he's been to the workouts, and you were saying off camera that he stepped quite nicely, which is always a concern 3-year-olds first up.
Absolutely. I mean, stepping out of basically mobile racing into stand racing and taking on older horses. This is not his last trial. This is his one 2 weeks ago. He actually trialled on Saturday as well, and he ran home in 58, quarter in 28, and did it very nice. He actually beat James Stormont's horse, who's quite a nice horse, Peaks Luck at the trials on Saturday, and did it equally as well again. I thought he's come back very well. There's a scratching in this race. Monkey Selfie's coming out, or is out at the moment, so he'll tighten up slightly in the market. That 230 won't last. I think he's the horse to beat. And saying that, there is that query about his standing start. Full of Hope's probably going quite well. Regan Todd's runner, and Swiss Miss was quite good last start, but I think off the front, if he steps, it's his race to lose.
Yeah, on the whole, Tony's horses do tend to be very, very well mannered. You don't get a lot of horses and Tonys who repetitively gallop. So even if he's a touch slow away, I think he's got a few yards on most of these. But Swiss Miss was very good last start. I'm almost Jack of Resonate. I've almost had enough of him.
Yeah, well, I spoke to John Dunn about that today and he said, no, had his chance last time.
Okay.
So there you go.
So you're
That
Jack
was
of
it.
him too?
Yep, I am. And no,
So
he
like-
said he's Jack of him.
So like,
there
like
you
the Matt
go.
Cross situation, he's been ditched on
We're
the
just
team.
moving right along. And I spoke to Regan Todd about Full of Hope too. He was obviously very happy when he won, not as happy last time, but he said his work this week's been very good. Let's have a look at race number 3, race number 3. And Dina Bolt, don't know what it is, but it's $1.65.
I think this is a really tricky race because
Gliding away is a fair animal.
you want to think to yourself it's going to run to the front and it's going to win and rah, and it's a very likely scenario. But this is not a case where this is a superstar 3-year-old and it's up against some pretty darn good horses. Double Rocket's a sharp horse. Even Matai Geordie was unlucky last start. Well, there's enough here that, again, I don't mean to be negative, you can't be taking $1.65 about a horse who is no good thing to lead and win.
This is a massive step up for him. I know he's a very good horse and he beat a nice field the other day, but this is not a bad field. I mean, there's a few intermediate grade paces here that'll work their way, not cut class, but near to it. I'm a Gigolo's a very, very good horse. I think they used him last week. He's possibly heading to Australia. I really like him. I thought the $7 was overs on him. He's $6 at the moment. He's got very good gate speed. He's drawn outside Dina Bolt or Dina Bolt, whichever way you want to call him. I thought he was a good chance. Tony Hurley picks up the drive. Obviously, Blair takes the drive on Gliding Away. But Michael's right. Double Rocket's a handy horse. JT Tyrone's a handy horse. There's a few horses that have been around a few times that can rough and tumble it. Dina Bolt will have to be at his very best if you're going to take $1.65.
Got a real smarty in Tickle Me Pink, another that won a harness duel at the most recent running of that, 2019, of course. And she's $1.95, Michael. Not a lot of reason to knock her for this, although there's some pretty hardened customers in here.
She's a wonderful mare. She really is. But this is a decent field. Tricky Rick's a good little horse and he needed to run last time. He'll be better for that. And it Over's a nice horse. Pretty Majestic was dead unlucky last start and she has really good form coming out of Australia. And Sartorius and Kenny's Dream contested the Inter-Dominions, and Sunny Glennis was actually the best I've ever seen her be last start. So, Craig, it's one of those races which you can back the fave and feel really happy backing her, or if you don't want to back her, there's an array, a smorgasbord of other options.
Absolutely. If you're looking outside the square, you mentioned Tricky Rick. He needed the run the other day. I think he was strip a lot fitter, and he's got 25 metres. I'm not sure if that's enough to beat her. Just on Pretty Majestic, 27 starts, all mobiles, never been from a stand. So is that query on her first time from a standing start? But $7 is probably right at the right price. And then I thought Sartorius was great. I mean, the second of the Dicky runners, Brett Mangos takes the drive, Josh is on the other runner, double figure odds. I thought very good. And then you get to the back markers. Sunny Glennis has had a great campaign. So it is a good field. There's plenty to talk outside the favourite. But if you have to narrow it down, say, who do you think will win the race? She's clearly the best
Well,
horse.
she actually, let's not forget also, she was beaten by 2 Group 1 serious horses, Oscar and Heart Your Calm last start, and she gapped the rest, and some of the horses behind her were Inter-Dominion horses. So, look, she probably should just win, but there's a race, there's enough other horses in here that any margin for error could be exploited by another. There's 4 or 5 horses here who are going to end up in the class.
She's very, very good.
Oh, she's wonderful. She's a wonderful, wonderful filly. Her comeback last season was perhaps the biggest story of the season as regards to things you couldn't see happening, because she didn't just come back and win one race. She came back and won 4 in a row and won the Jewels.
Yep. What about another lady who's flying at the moment? Her name is Belle of Montana. She's $1.22. Stablemate Wainui Creek. I thought it was a very good place bet in this. How did you see it? Well, because this is going to be another task for Zachary Butcher. He's going to have to come up with something here.
I think he can just sit back and smoke his pipe. I believe that it'll unfold in front of him, because I believe Have Time and Better Start Dream will probably come off the gate. This was an outstanding performance. The horse that runs second goes on to win its next start a week later, so the form was franked. And have a look at the way she won this race. John's hard at work on the second runner. Zach hardly moved on Belle of Montana and won by 3 lengths in a fantastic time. $1.25 from the outside draw. I think you can't back it individually, but like Oscar and a few of the favourites, the bookmakers had a bad day on Inter-Dominion night Gregory, and I could see it happening again this week.
$500,000 or more, I'm hearing.
Well, I tell you what, the way it pans out this week, I can see at least 6 favourites winning tomorrow night, and I think she'll be one of them at $1.22. Outside her, if you want some value, I think Dance Time's coming back from the end of Dominions. Actually went a couple of great races, didn't make the final, but went really well. Big drop back in class for it, and I thought it a great place bet.
Just to go in reverse, because you're talking about multi-bets, and there's a lot of shorties in. There's actually a lot of shorties also at Ellerslie on Wednesday, and there's going to be people wanting to multi a whole bunch of horses up, like Riadini, for example. Who's the one who's least likely to win? For people watching this show and they go, yep, who's the one you think, hold on, just calm down there, don't be backing this one too short?
Dina Bolt.
Yeah, I'm with you actually.
Of all of their $1.60 favourites, I thought it's a big step up. Not saying it can't win.
On their website, Natalie said she thought was more a $5 chance.
Well, there you go.
That.
I think you have to read in what they say. I mean, she's a great judge and she analyses the races very well. It is a step up in grade. Could win the race, but it's one I wouldn't have my
Actually,
multi.
on the subject of their website, the All Stars website, Dave McCarthy's been doing a good job. Like at some of those interviews and stuff, and the question stuff is really useful.
Pre and post race.
Well, it's all right for you and I. We can ring the All Stars and get information, which we do. Then we try and pass it on to you at home. But not everybody gets to watch these shows either. So it's free information. It's there for you, and it's not always right, but. It's there.
It's there for you, and it's there for everyone. What about your best and value of the night, Will?
For me, I think the 2-year-old in the last. I'd be really happy to take the $1.70, $1.75 about Krug. There's only 5 in the last. He's a really good 2-year-old. Jet took a good one to beat him, and we'll hear plenty of the horse that beat him in an upcoming week. So I think he's a great bet in the last. Very keen on Tony Hurley's mare, Dinah Brown. She ran into Better's Heart last start. She wasn't far off her. She was Group 1 placed. I think she drops into the right race and she's $6.
Right.
Really good bet.
If it's called Dinah Brown, then the other one's called Dinah Bolt. We can't have 2 different names of the same
It has to be a
spelling.
Dinah Bolt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A Dinah Bolt is.
Well, it's Dinah Bolt. It has to be. But this is embarrassing. I like
What
the
about
same one, Krug.
Yeah.
There used to be a trotter called Krug, trained in West Auckland by Kevin Walker, but this is a different Krug, and I reckon it'll win the last race. Actually, I don't mind Swiss Miss in the first.
Okay.
I thought just in case Bolt for Brilliance gallops, which I don't think it will, but it was really good last start.
Yep.
And at $5 or $6, I'm willing to find out because I think it's again almost, not being derogatory, but almost a 2-horse race.
Yeah, well, I was with Krug as well, but I thought I'd better change it because we couldn't have all 3 of us taking $1.75. So I went Bolt for Brilliance and Axelare in race number 2. Is in the right sort of race, I reckon. We've had a lot of Country Cup racing since we were last on. Here's the Wairio Cup, which was won by Vintage Cheddar. Continues to go very good races and gets up and does the business here right on the line for very much in-form Blair Orange. Rangiora, we did see a cup there prior to Christmas, and Dad and Dave got the business done there. For Tim Trathan, again, Blair Orange in the bike, and good to see this horse back to something like its best form. Racing the Derby at 3, and it's just been a bit of a battle for Timmy to get him back to his best, but that was the right race for him, Craig.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a thought of playing here. It's a Blair Orange and John Dunn show, because we've seen Blair win the first 2, and then we're going to see John Dunn win with Heisenberg, and later on Stars Tonight in the Westport Cup. This was a really good win. Runs down Nandolo, the 2 Mongolian horses, they hit the line quite nicely, but he's back from the Cup, Heisenberg, and that was a good win.
Yeah, and he thoroughly deserved that. Gee, he's been fantastic right through the Cup Carnival. Tango Tara was charging down the outside, but Stars Tonight had a decent sort of a break and won the Westport Cup. So the Dunn stable to the 4 there, and Gavin Smith has experienced a very enjoyable time there on the coast, and he was sitting in the bike for that one. The Gore Cup, here's Blair Orange, better than fast. Very smart drive this, Craig. Once it got to the front, gee, it was good.
Step quickly got round mid-stages, dominated, beat Lawrence, who we saw running through the Cup week at Eddington. He's gone on and backed up that form. And then we got onto the Christmas Cup here, and this was taken out by a roughie, Homebush lad for the Hopes. They had a good day at Westport today, winning with Baxter, and this one got home right down the outside at double-figure odds and set up a mighty big quaddie there. Gregory, which you talked up to a nice handy pool of over 50,000.
Yeah, it was a nice old pot to be playing for, and got in off the ballot for that race. So nice work there. And the Reefton Cup, which was run today, and here's Gavin Smith at it again. Just Holler in form for Jack Harrington. I think that's 3 on the bounce.
Yeah, I tell you what, Gavin had a really good 2 days at Westport, and he backed it up with Reefton today. Drove a couple of beauties, including his stablemate, stable winner, God Only Knows, later in the program. So yeah, it was Blair Orange and Gavin Smith that had a couple of really good 3 or 4 days over the coast period.
Yep, for sure. Dr. Love is the horse we want to have a look at as the Woodlands winner. Now, this is a really good family, Michael Guerin, by Sweet Lou. Out of Spirit of Eros, Better Spirits 114, Spirit Desire 114. And this family, you were telling me, is even deeper than that.
Yeah, I think for every male pacer who's got past the age of 3 and raced after the age of 3 in the last 5 generations have won. So it's been a remarkable family. There's been some very good horses come out of it, but they just keep producing horses who can run.
There's a colt by Sweet Lou going through the sales out of that mare that is going through, I think, an early lot at Caracas, so well worth having a look at.
All right, February, getting pretty close, those sales, aren't they? Matty White and Mike Berger doing the job there. What's ahead for the box seat? Well, we'll have a new producer by the time we're here on the 22nd of January, but a full replay of Alexandra Park will be on. The first play there's 7:30 a.m. on the 2nd of January, and then that will play again at 8:30. We will have that for our next show back on the 22nd.
Tomorrow night, if you're coming or you want to go to Alexandra Park and you're thinking, well, how does this work? You know, do I need to get dressed up? Do I need tickets? Well, no. First of all, it's free to get in. You don't need to get dressed up, you can just be cash because there's sort of sports bar type things there. Yes, the Tasman Inn will be open if you would like to go and have a slightly bigger experience. 9:30 tomorrow night, they'll have a big fireworks display. So if you want to take the kids along, if they're staying up that late for New Year's Eve, you can go along 9:30. They close down at 10, so you can't see the new year in there, fellas, but you can enjoy early start 4 o'clock to sort of 10 o'clock, then get home in time to celebrate New Year somewhere else. But there will be a big fireworks display, so they will be making it very family friendly. If you're in Auckland and you're thinking to yourself, should I, shouldn't I pop along? It's not a big get dressed up, have to spend a lot of money type occasion.
All right, given your age now, will you see the New Year in?
Right,
well, thanks so much for your help on the show.
Great, guys. Looking
Did you
forward
think of that when you're on holiday? Your 2-week holiday?
Enjoy your Gold Coast trip?
Yeah, it was very good. Thanks very much. Yeah,
it's good.
Looking forward to tomorrow, and your analytical skills will be to the fore once again.
Yeah, of course, we'll do a little bit of a preview prior to the first tomorrow. Of course, the first starts around about 4 o'clock tomorrow, so get to Alexandra Park.
But you're suggesting multis are the way to play?
I think, as I said, I think it'll be a very good day for the favourites tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Talking about heading forward after this, of course, we're going to have a whole bunch of these horses who head to Cambridge. They've got a huge meeting coming up on Friday week for the 10th. Now, a lot of the All-Stars are going to the mile, so it's going to be a really good race, and some of the trotters are sticking around for the 1700 that night. Then a lot of them will head to Australia. So we'll have big coverage of big racing over there. We're going to have Oscar Bonavina and the Great Southern Star, obviously the Hunter Cup, smooth deal going for the Derby, and it'll roll into Sydney. So we do have a lot of big stuff coming up. At Cambridge, Friday week, we don't have a show before then. They're going to have a big old go if you are in the Waikato.
All right, thanks so much, Michael, for your input tonight, and to you, Craig.
Thanks, Greg.
We'll see you both tomorrow at Alexandra Park. And seriously, a big thanks to Glenn Bourne. He's done a magic job over the 100 episodes plus that he's done for us on the box seat. We'll see you all from the park tomorrow. All the very best with your punting.